The dark secret of the twins, why the matriarch warned us to never speak again. The sun hung low in the smoky, hazy sky as whispers danced through Hollow Hill. A chill swept over the neighborhood, turning warm laughter to nervous glances. The twins, Lily and Rose, both only 13, were the talk of the town. The matriarch of their family, a woman of looming presence and unyielding authority, had warned them. "Never speak of what you've seen," she had said, her voice sharp like the crack of thunder. What horror lay behind those ominous words? Rumors began to circulate after that fateful night when the twins were lost in the woods for 3 days. When they reappeared, something had changed. Their eyes were wide but hollow, as if they had peered into an abyss that no child should ever witness. There were no tears, only a distant stare that turned every eye upon them. Folks claimed to hear voices around their house, twisted echoes that seemed to chatter in the wind, secrets too terrible for understanding. Then there was the fruit tree, gnarled and ancient, standing at the edge of their property. Locals swore it bore fruit that glowed like molten gold. But the twins never picked them. They simply stood there, whispering to the tree in strange, melodic tones that twisted the spine of anyone who dared to listen too closely. What passed between them and that tree? A deep-rooted fear grew as folks avoided wandering too near, sensing the peculiar energy that seemed to vibrate off the bark. Lily cried out one afternoon, eyes wild, screaming that shadows danced behind their curtains. Rose, always the calmer twin, tried to hush her, but her voice trembled. People in town began locking their doors at dusk and clutching their children tightly, fearful of what the night might reveal. A mother down the street even claimed to have seen the twins standing at the foot of her driveway, murmuring in a language older than time itself. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As night fell, the twins were never seen outside again. Their laughter faded, replaced with whispers that buzzed through the community like a yellow jacket swarm. The air thickened with the weight of unsaid words, and the night grew darker, the shadows longer. What truth lay hidden in that house? And why did the matriarch's warning echo in every heart? Was it to protect them, or to keep the terror at bay? A frantic curiosity started to grip the town, slowly spiraling into a fear that paralyzed everyone. How long until they, too, would hear the whispers? The days stretched into weeks, but the tension in Hollow Hill didn't fade. Instead, it thickened like fog, clinging to every doorframe and lingering in the corners of every room. The whispers of the twins became a dangerous thing that everyone shared. Did you hear? They stood by the tree again. Each conversation stoked a growing sense of dread and curiosity, but fear outweighed fascination. One evening, a boy named Charlie, his curiosity sharper than his sense for danger, decided he couldn't take it anymore. He gathered his courage and approached the twins' home, a dilapidated old structure draped in shadows. The fruit tree loomed larger than life behind it, its branches twisting like fingers in the wind. The golden fruit glimmered as the last light of day slipped away, drawing him closer like a moth to a flame. His heart raced as he crept up the unkempt path, every step guided by a mix of thrill and terror. What would he find? The urge to uncover whatever secret lay within those whispers burned in his chest. Just as he neared the tree, he heard it, a soft melody echoing through the night. It was sweet and haunting, pulling him in and making him forget the warnings, but as he held his breath and strained to listen, the music turned dark, morphing into something chilling. The branches seemed to sway more violently, and shadows flickered at the edges of his vision. Charlie's eyes darted to the house, where he saw a flicker of movement behind the curtain. 2 figures stood there, faceless but undeniably watching him. Panic surged through him, sending him sprinting back down the path. He could feel the weight of their gaze, like the cold grip of a hand on his shoulder, pushing him faster until he gasped for breath on the front porch of his own home. That night, Charlie lay in bed, the melody swirling in his head. Each note twisted and turned until he shivered beneath the covers, unable to shake off the feeling that he'd opened a door that could not be closed. He shut his eyes tightly, hoping to drift into sleep, but all he could hear were whispers, darker and closer than ever before. Days passed, and the town spiraled deeper into paranoia. One evening, a group of mothers gathered only to find the twins' house engulfed in a thick, ominous silence. Rumors flew about what could have happened to them, the fear palpable, bringing communities together for safety. Yet some felt a pull, an unexplainable need to uncover the truth. They decided, in hushed tones, that someone must go in. As night approached, a small gathering of brave souls assembled outside the twins' home. Charlie, unable to resist the pulsating dread, slipped out of his house to watch. He hid behind a bush, heart pounding, stomach knotted. The group crept forward, muttering about the whispers that tormented their town, but before they could knock, a shrill scream pierced the night, the kind that made everyone freeze and blood run cold. Charlie's breath caught, and he felt a chill ripple through his body, marionette strings pulling at his limbs, urging him forward. What had they found? And then, in that suspended moment of breathless silence, the gateway to terror widened. A figure emerged from the shadow of the doorway. In that moment, every heart ached with fear, each pulse synchronized as they awaited a revelation that could change everything. Would the truth finally come to light, or would it plunge them deeper into darkness? The night thickened with heavy anticipation, leaving only the questions echoing in the air. What happened to the twins? What horror awaited them within those walls? The door creaked open, a sound that sliced through the tension like a knife. A figure cloaked in shadows took a hesitant step forward, each movement deliberate and eerie. It was a girl, one of the twins, though her eyes appeared wild and glassy in the moonlight. The air seemed to suck in a breath, holding everyone in a tangled knot of fear and confusion. "Charlie," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet it echoed in the night like thunder. It sent chills straight down his spine. How did she know his name? Fear clawed deeper into his chest, gripping his heart as he observed her bedraggled appearance. Her clothes were torn, and dirt smeared her once innocent face. Behind her, the house loomed ominously, its windows like dark eyes watching their every move. "Help us!" A second voice came from within, desperate and filled with anguish. The group exchanged glances, uncertainty written in every crease of their brows. Should they trust this echo of a forgotten connection? What could have happened to them in their own home? "Where's your sister?" One of the mothers called out, her voice shaky yet firm. The girl hesitated, glancing back into the shadows, hesitant. The tension hung thick, like a noose tightening around their throats. They come for us." The whispers. Panic flickered in her eyes, and suddenly her breath hitched, as though the mere act of remembering was too much to bear. "We must leave." As she spoke, the air grew darker still, shadows slinking from the house like serpents, circling her feet. The ominous melody they all feared echoed softly through the night, whipping around them like a haunting lullaby, compelling and surreal. In that moment, Charlie felt the invisible tendrils of fear tugging at him, pulling him closer to the edges of that dreadful place. He took a tentative step forward, compelled by something deeper than caution. But one of the others, a father, brave but driven by anger, shouted, "Enough! You can't wander into the darkness." His words almost seemed to break the spell, yanking everyone back to reality. A brief silence lingered, and then, the girl screamed, a raw sound that shattered the air as the shadows surged closer. They flickered and writhed like angry spirits. In a moment of instinct, she turned last to Charlie, her gaze piercing through the chaotic night, begging for understanding. "They found us. If we don't hurry, they'll take you too." Suddenly, the earth trembled beneath their feet. The ground seemed to shake, reverberating with the echoes of long-buried secrets. Everyone stumbled for balance, fear manifesting into a palpable force. "Go!" the girl cried, panic lacing her tone, but just as they turned to flee, the darkness behind the girl surged forward, a mass of shadow that pulsed and roared. It poured out like a thick fog, drenching the night in pitiless blackness. Faces morphed into masks of terror, screams threaded through the air, mingling with the music that resonated from the depths of the house. Charlie felt bound in place, an invisible chain tying him to this reality. "What do you want?" he managed a whisper, heart hammering against his ribs. "Your soul, we've come for your soul," the shadows seemed to reply, a disembodied voice rumbling through the chaos. And just like that, the girl was swallowed by the void, the shadows drawing back as if feasting. There was no one left to speak or scream. With that, the remaining souls burst into a racing panic, running down the path like wild animals fleeing a fire, leaving Charlie gasping on the porch with unanswered questions swirling violently within him. What had revealed itself tonight? What dark truth awaited him still? And could he find the strength to confront the shadows that now threatened to consume Hollow Hill? As he turned to leave, something shifted in the air, an ache for answers mixed with dread. He caught sight of a shimmering golden fruit dangling from the tree, glinting like a beacon against the backdrop of the encroaching night. In that fleeting moment, Charlie sensed that the whispers were still alive, and they weren't done with him yet. What price would he pay to uncover the truth? Charlie stood frozen, the whispers curling around him like smoke, beckoning with a familiar warmth that twisted his insides. The fruit shone brightly, tauntingly evident against the gnarled, dark tree. The echoes of the girl's scream still reverberated in his mind, ghostly reminders of the horror that had just unfolded. Fishing for a reason, he felt a sudden thrum of curiosity mixed with his dread, compelling him to take a step closer to the tree. It was fruit that shouldn't exist here, vibrant and ripe in the shadow of despair. He glanced back toward the path where everyone had fled, a desperate frenzy to escape the encroaching darkness. But amidst the chaos, his feet felt weighted down, as if the ground itself pulled him in. "Charlie! Stay away from there!" A voice yelled from the distance, breaking through his trance. It was the father, a look of fury and fear etched into his face. "Come on! We need to go now." Against the scream of reason, Charlie found his hand reaching out. The fruit swayed gently, as if aware of him. With a deep breath, he grasped it, feeling the surprisingly warm skin that pulsed with life, contrasting the cold fear that gripped him. "Didn't you hear her?" the father shouted, charging over, urgency spiking in his tone. "We can't mess with things we don't understand." Before Charlie could respond, the ground trembled again, and a low rumble emanated from the dark house. It seemed to breathe, releasing a gust of chill that swept past him, urging him to step away from the tree. Charlie glanced down at the fruit, a shiver racing through him. Its glow pulsed rhythmically, a heartbeat that felt tied to his own. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but his voice choked in the intensity of the moment. "I have to know what this means," he finally said, despite the gnawing intuition warring within him. "Maybe this can help her. Maybe it can save them." "No!" the father barked, eyes wide with terror. "You're playing with fire. If you pick that fruit, you might seal their fate and your own." Charlie hesitated, heart pounding as fragments of memories fell into place. The twilight stories of Hollow Hill, tales whispered among neighbors, spoke of forbidden fruit, of promises made, and horrors unleashed. Was this the very fruit spoken of in dire warnings? In that moment, a song broke through the stillness, a haunting melody laced with despair, a lullaby drifting from the depths of the house. Others were caught in its pull. It chilled Charlie to his bones. Each note seemed to thread through the air, tugging viciously at his heart. "What is happening?" Charlie trembled, eyes darting around where shadows danced, pulling tighter as the music entwined like vines. The father's face contorted in growing rage and fear. "You don't recognize it, do you? That's their call." He lunged toward Charlie, but it was too late. In an instant, the fruit slipped from Charlie's fingers, plummeting to the ground. As it shattered, a brilliant flash erupted, and the shadows recoiled, pulsing like a wounded beast. The music morphed into a cacophony of anguished cries, swirling into a tempest that enveloped them. Bright light burst from the fruit's remnants, flooding the area, and revealing fleeting glimpses of the twin girls locked in a desperate struggle against an unyielding dark. Their faces surfaced in the chaos, twisted in pain and pleading for deliverance. "Charlie! There's no time!" The father shrieked, grabbing Charlie's arm, trying to pull him to safety, but the energy of the spell was crashing down. Then, just as quickly, darkness surged, and the ground beneath them gave way, sending Charlie tumbling backward, heart racing as he grappled for something to hold on to, slipping further into the grip of the shadows. What had he unleashed? And was there truly no way to save the twins now swallowed by the storm? As he fought for footing in a world erupting with darkness, he glimpsed the tree once more, shadows clawing at its roots. Would he make it out alive, or was he destined to join the frightened souls within? And in that harrowing moment, whispers grew louder, weaving through the chaos, sealing his fate ever closer to the very truth he sought. Charlie landed hard, the earth knocking the breath from his lungs. As he rolled to a stop, the darkness churned around him like a living entity, hungry and relentless. The cries of the girls echoed through the void, sharper now, filled with a desperation that pierced Charlie's heart. "Charlie!" The father's voice cut through the turmoil, frantic and strained. He reached for Charlie, his face a mask of terror. "We need to get out. Now." Charlie pushed himself up, shaking off the disorientation, trying to make sense of the chaos. Shadows writhed and twisted, wrapping around his legs like serpents. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to escape this nightmare, but as he glanced back toward the tree, he felt a strange pull, an anchoring force that held him in place. But why? The sound of the lullaby crackled in the air, heavier now, bursting with magic that felt almost alive. Memories of late-night stories whispered warnings of what happened to those who lingered too long, how they danced at the fringes of a domain they didn't understand. "Get away from the house!" The father shouted, yanking Charlie to his feet, panic evident in his grip. "Wait! The girls!" Charlie protested, gesturing toward the shimmering light swirling in the distance. He could still see them, shadows reaching out, trapped in their silent scream. The light pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, tethering him to an impossible hope. "They're in there. Don't you see? That's the trap." The father's voice cracked, desperation seeping through the cracks. "We can't help them if we're swallowed too." The darkness skittered closer, creeping toward them with an insatiable hunger. Each shuddering pulse loomed like a ticking clock, counting down their final moments. Charlie clenched his teeth, a fire igniting deep within him. He couldn't let fear make his choices. "We have to try. If there's any chance." Suddenly, a sharp scream split the air, a chilling cacophony that was both a plea and a warning. Charlie gritted his teeth, raw determination clawing its way up from deep inside. "I can't just leave them." A ghostly figure flickered in the shadow, the outline of a girl crying out, her mouth forming words he couldn't hear over the howl of the storm raging around them. It was too close, too real. The reality of their plight settled heavy in his chest. "Charlie! No!" The father surged forward, the urgency igniting his strength. But then, as if the very darkness responded to Charlie's resolve, a sudden crack of energy shot through the ground. The earth trembled violently, and from the depths of the shadow, two pairs of glistening eyes emerged, hollow and lost, reflecting the light that poured forth from the remnants of the fruit. They locked onto Charlie's gaze, anchoring him in a shared moment of despair. Gripping his father's hand, Charlie felt a rush of understanding. This was their destiny, the girls, the house, the forbidden fruit. Everything hinged on this moment. "Charlie, we can't." The father's voice faltered, fear rippling through him as the shadows pulsed hungrily forward. In a heartbeat, they were surrounded, a vortex of darkness closing in for the kill. Charlie could feel the pull of despair wrapping around him tighter as the twins' faces twisted in agony, their fingers stretching through the air, reaching for deliverance. And in that terrifying moment, everything snapped. An explosion of light erupted between them, filling the air with electric energy. Everything dimmed, the shadows recoiling with a wail that echoed deep in Charlie's soul. As the blinding light surged forward, time stretched, and he realized this was more than a choice between life and death. This was the sacred pact of Hollow Hill, and it demanded a price, but what would they have to give? The light clawed at the edges of the darkness, illuminating paths they had never seen before, their secrets shimmering like stardust in the dim air. And then he understood he needed to reach the girls. To mend the fractures that bound them. But could they survive what it would take? The darkness surged again, furious and relentless, as if sensing his intent. Would they sacrifice everything? Would he? And just as Charlie made his choice, the shadows surged forward, closing in with a chilling grip, leaving him to wonder if he had unraveled a fate even worse than what he sought to save. The ground quaked violently beneath Charlie's feet, sending a shudder through his bones. The air thickened, charged with a crackling tension that buzzed in his ears. He could feel the heat of the light pulsing behind him, but the darkness loomed over him, a heavy blanket ready to suffocate, and he could hardly breathe. Stay close. His father's desperate shout was a lifeline, pulling him back from the edge of reckless abandon. Charlie felt the grip of his father's hand tightening around his wrist, but it wasn't fear that anchored him, it was determination. He forced himself to focus, to shake off the sense of impending doom. The wailing sound of the shadows twisted around him like an unnatural song. It resonated deep within his chest, a mournful echo that spoke of despair but also of a chilling truth: the twins were close. He could feel their presence like a spark igniting a fire in the back of his mind. They were in there, just beyond the reach of light, their cries begging for help. "Charlie, we can't just stand here," his father urged, eyes wide with panic. The shadows flickered and shifted, almost alive, swirling like a violent storm intent on devouring them both, but Charlie stepped forward, the golden glow of desperation guiding him. "I have to go. I can't leave them." The words burst forth, stronger than his doubt, mightier than his fear. Without warning, the darkness surged forward with amazing speed, the shadows elongating, reaching out with icy fingers that threatened to pull him under. Charlie stumbled back, instinctively pressed against his father for support. "Do you want to lose them forever?" His father's voice was a frantic whisper, but the urgency only fueled Charlie's resolve. In that moment, Charlie remembered the stories, the tales of sacrifice and bravery, of lost souls yearning for the light. Then the light flared again, blindingly bright, cutting through the blackness like a sword. For a brief moment, he could see everything: the dark tendrils curling away from the light, revealing glimpses of the world beneath them. Shapes twisted in agony, and among them, the twins' figures shimmered. "Help us!" Their voices floated through the air, tinged with a raw, heart-wrenching plea that made Charlie's heart ache. "Charlie! They're not real." "They are not," but the rest of his father's words faded into the chaos as a realization hit Charlie. He couldn't turn away from their cries, not now, not ever. He drew in a deep breath, feeling something shift within him, an awakening of purpose that ignited a flame of courage. He took a step towards the twins, the golden light brightening his path, and he felt an unseen current tugging at him, urging him to venture further into the darkness. "Let us go!" Charlie shouted, to both encourage his father and to summon the strength he needed. The glow pulsed warmly, beckoning him, but the darkness retaliated, swirling like a tempest, a primal force ready to consume the light. His heart pounded fiercely as he pushed closer, the figures of the twins coming into sharper focus. They looked like reflections of each other under the pale light, but their expressions twisted in fear and desperation. The sorrow in their eyes gripped him by the throat, choking back old tales of warnings. Suddenly, a shadow from behind propelled forward with lethal speed and seized Charlie's father, gripping him with inhuman strength, tearing him away from Charlie. "No!" Charlie screamed, watching helplessly as his father was yanked backward into the dark. "Charlie!" His father shouted, a mix of desperation and disbelief churning in his voice. Charlie felt the heat of the light hurling him forward instinctively, and in that moment of chaos, his mind raced. Did he chase after the twins or save his father? The air crackled around them, the shadows tightening their grasp, the screams of lost souls beckoning him toward the brink. What kind of price would he pay for this choice? With every heartbeat, the darkness tightened further around him, each second stretching into infinity. What began as shadows of despair morphed into a sinister promise. If they could reach the twins, perhaps their fates could be rewritten, but what secrets lay entwined with that promise? As he made his choice, Charlie wondered if it would lead to salvation or damnation, and whether he could face the truth he was veering towards. In the very heartbeat between choices, the air buzzed with a newfound tension, and Charlie knew that in this moment, nothing was as it seemed. The pull of the twins' cries twisted through Charlie's insides, mixing hope with fear. He took another step, the golden light flickering wildly, as if sensing the impending battle against the dark. Shadows snaked closer, surrounding him like a leviathan eager to swallow him whole. "Charlie!" His father's voice broke through the din, frantically attempting to reach out. But the shadows clung to him, dragging him down into the abyss. The fog thickened, Charlie felt the cold seep into his bones. "Don't give in!" Charlie yelled, defiance pouring from him as he drew strength from the light. "I'm coming!" With that the twins' cries surged forward, rising above the chaos, and he felt the air become electric with urgency. In that stifling darkness, a flicker of familiarity struck him. The twins weren't really lost, they were trapped, ensnared in a net woven by something ancient and unyielding. Images flashed through his mind, echoes of voices from forgotten tales, a matriarch warning them all about speaking of the cursed shadows. Secrets hidden beneath layered fabrications of innocent stories unfolding like petals in the moonlight. That he had to find them. Pushing back against the creeping chill, he fought to center himself in the chaos. The figures of the twins flickered in his vision, near enough to touch but wreathed in shadows. Their pleas tugged at his heart, compelling him to advance. Every instinct screamed at him to protect his father, yet the desire to rescue the twins overshadowed that urgency. "Focus, Charlie. Focus." His father's voice echoed in the warped distance, piercing through the memory's fog. Determined, he squared his jaw, forcing his feet forward, even as the ground roiled beneath him. The shadows fought back, their whispers becoming a howl that clawed at his sanity. But he remembered the shimmering expressions of the twins, fearful yet pure, glimmering with the unfulfilled promise of deliverance. The familiar warmth of their bond ignited a blaze of hope within him. He cast a glance behind, where shadows coiled dangerously close around his father. "Hold on!" He shouted into the darkness, suddenly knowing he was both savior and shield, a guardian of bonds that refused to sever. The shadows hissed in response, their whispers seeping into his mind, sowing seeds of doubt. What if he failed? What if they were never found? He could feel them slipping, and a rush of adrenaline surged. With renewed vigor, he charged forward, the light streaming from his heart like a blazing beacon. "I will find you. I will unite us." As he broke through the swirling mists of shadows, he grabbed hold of the twins' outstretched hands, their skin cold to the touch but electrified by a sudden surge of warmth from his own. "Charlie!" they cried, their voices intertwined, a melody of desperation and love. Then, as if sensing their reunion, a deep rumble echoed through the darkness, shaking the very foundation of this world. The shadows writhed violently, walls straining as if to protect their wicked heart, a guardian to the secrets hidden within. "Listen, we have to go," he urged, pulling them towards the light, but the darkness retaliated, an otherworldly force seizing him from behind, dragging him back into that familiar, breathless void. Sudden terror filled his chest. Would the twins break free, or would he lose them once and for all? The air thickened with tension, and he felt a dark truth lurking just beyond the veil of shadows. What connection did the twins hold to the ominous warnings of the matriarch? Desperation clawed at him as he struggled against the relentless grasp of darkness. As the shadows howled in triumph, Charlie sensed he was standing at the precipice of a far greater mystery. At that moment, he realized the twins were more than lost souls, they were the key to unlocking a fate entwined with the deepest horror he could yet imagine, and before he could summon courage to voice the question gnawing at him, a sound echoed, an ominous laughter piercing the darkness, chilling him to the bone. What dark truths waited behind that laughter? What fate awaited them if they dug too deep? The moment hung in the air, thick with terror and the promise of revelation, as Charlie stood on the brink of discovery. The darkness tightened around Charlie, a living entity pulsating with sinister energy. It felt alive, breathing, waiting. He could sense the twins' grip slipping, their cries morphing into frantic whispers that clawed at him like sharp talons. Charlie! They were so close, yet the shadows frayed their voices, pulling them away. Every ounce of his being screamed to not let go. Stay with me. He pleaded, feeling sweat bead along his brow. The shadows recoiled, hissing, as if they were offended by his determination. That he felt a sudden tug at his heart, a wave of despair crashing down, but he had to fight back. A memory sparked in his mind, the Matriarch's stories. Muffled warnings about awakened forces and ancient pacts forged in blood. The twins, they're part of this. He have to understand everything right now, he just needed to act. Clenching his fists, he summoned the light within again, letting it radiate like a flare piercing the night sky. The golden glow flickered fiercely, casting shadows away for just a moment. It was a small reprieve, but enough to see the distant shapes of the twins' faces, strained and filled with fear. Can you hear me? He shouted into the chaos, his voice raw with urgency. You are not alone. I'm right here. The storm of shadows shrieked in a tumultuous uproar, desperate to silence him. But their cries were met with the blazing light, it ignited fervently as if compelled by his words. The twins turned toward him, their eyes wide, reflecting glimmers of hope against the encroaching darkness. Charlie! Help us! They cried, and in that moment, he felt an indescribable connection surge through him, a bond fortified by shared laughter, cries, and the love that transcended even this realm of shadows. Hold on tight. He urged, pulling them close, but the darkness lashed out with renewed fury. Tendrils of shadow lashed against his back, sharp as knives, gnawing at the very fabric of his being. Pain seared across him, but he fought through it. I won't lose you. He stumbled forward, a determined warrior against the tide. Suddenly, the laughter echoed again, this time more mocking, a chilling timbre wrapping itself around him as a voice resounded from the depths. Foolish child! Do you think you can defy fate? It reverberated, colossal in its menace, sending ripples of dread through Charlie's core. Who are you? He demanded, shaking off the fear as best he could. Merely a keeper of secrets, the voice replied, thick with disdain. You've stepped into things far beyond you, things that can break the very bonds of your loved ones. Let them go. Charlie shouted, his voice breaking. He took a step forward, unwavering, letting the light grow. They don't belong to you. The shadows shrieked, the laughter turning manic. Such bravado! But can you bear the truth? Before he could react, the ground beneath them trembled, an unseen force shifting like a tidal wave. Charlie felt himself pulled toward a swirling abyss that opened up beside them, a bottomless pit lined with darkness that seemed to beckon him to surrender. Together! He cried, gripping the twins' hands tighter. We face this together. But just as they began to gather their strength, a rush of icy air surged forward, ripping them apart. The twins screamed, fingers slipping from his grasp, and for that brief second, despair flooded Charlie's heart. He shouted their names, but the laughter enveloped them, wrapping around his soul like chains, yanking him back. That he felt a deep sense of loss, a visceral sting that shook him. What had the matriarch known? What horrors had she glimpsed that bound the twins to this darkness? As Charlie fought to regain control, the air twisted and warped, groans of ancient secrets echoing in the distance. A sharp clarity struck him, and he realized this darkness clung to more than the twins. It craved something far more powerful. Could it be him? He took a deep breath, summoning his resolve once again, as the unsettling laughter continued to ricochet around him, leaving him on the edge of revelation. But would he be strong enough to face what lay ahead? As shadows swirled wickedly, Charlie questioned everything he believed in. wondering if the twins were the true key to unraveling this dark legacy. What devastating truths lurked within those shadows, waiting just for him? The swirling shadows closed in, pulsating with a life of their own. Fear clawed at Charlie's insides. He tried to gather the light again, but it flickered weakly. Why was it failing him now? Twins! He shouted, tracing the darkness to where they had disappeared. Their terrified faces haunted him, and the memory of the warmth of their hands slipping away was seared into his mind. He felt like he was drowning, the weight of the darkness pulling him under, and with it, the echoes of their cries that he turned, desperately searching for any glimmer of hope. As he did, a flickering figure emerged from the shadows on the edge of his vision, a silhouette moving with purpose. It stepped forward, and the darkness seemed to shudder away just for a moment, revealing a woman cloaked in ethereal light. Charlie, her voice was soft, almost a whisper against the chaos. You must listen closely. His heart raced. Who are you? The realization struck him, it was the matriarch. This was the strength he had been searching for. The twins, she urged, her expression grave. They are key to binding the darkness, but they are also its prize. It craves their essence, their connection to you. You must understand the pact forged long ago. How do I stop it? He begged, desperation creeping into his voice. It is not just about strength, she replied, urgency sharpening her urgency. You must be willing to face the truth, the darkest parts of your heart. There are consequences to wielding this light. You must show them the way. With that, the shadows writhed as if sensing her presence. They screamed, a cacophony of tormented voices vying for attention. The matriarch's light pulsed, pushing back the darkness somewhat, but it wasn't enough. Find the echo, she said, and Charlie felt a pulse in his chest, a resonance that mirrored the bond he shared with the twins. It holds the memories of everything that was lost. Follow it, and you may reclaim them. The darkness twisted, angered by her words. Tendrils lashed out, chasing the matriarch's light, trying to drown it in shadows. Go. Now. She urged, pushing him toward the swirling mass of fear and despair. You are strong enough. Trust that love can break the chains. Charlie reached into the chaos, heart pounding in rhythm with the darkness. He didn't know what the echo was, but he felt compelled to search for it. With each step, he could feel the heaviness bearing down on him, the walls of shadow threatening to swallow him whole. He focused on the connection, the strength that love provided. Twins. He called out, his voice unwavering now. I will find you. With that, he leapt into the fray, light bursting forth from deep within him, illuminating the crevices of despair. For a fleeting moment, he felt their presence again, their warmth, their laughter, their shared heartbeat. That flicker of hope seemed to dissolve the darkness momentarily. The echo rippled through him, drawing him deeper, guiding him closer to the truth hidden in the void. As he dove into the shadows, terror screamed in his ears, urging him to turn back. But there was no stopping now. He could sense the twins just beyond reach, their whispers woven into the very fabric of the shadows, pleading for him to act. Suddenly, a cold grip snatched at his ankle, pulling him back. Panic surged through him as he realized it was more than just the darkness, it was a manifestation of his own doubts. Charlie. A voice broke through, muffled but familiar. The twins. They were still out there, close enough for him to hear, but he had to push through this darkness inside him first. Together, he remembered their voices echoing. Always together. If only he could conjure the same energy they inspired in him, remind them of the love that bound them. But could that be enough? As the shadows tightened their grip, he felt the urgency pounding in his veins. What lay ahead? Was he prepared to face the truth of his own heart? He summoned every ounce of courage he had left, focused on that echo of love, and pushed forward. But what terrible revelation awaited him in the depths of the shadows? The shadows twisted like a living nightmare, pulling at Charlie as he fought against their icy grip. The cries of the twins, now hauntingly familiar and laced with desperation, urged him to surge forward through the darkness. "I'm coming!" he shouted, the words igniting a flicker of resolve deep inside. "We're together. You're not alone." With every ounce of energy, he pressed ahead, the pulsing light from within him growing brighter. It reverberated through the darkness, illuminating faces in the void, faces of lost souls caught in the web of despair. They reached out with outstretched hands, mirroring the twins' own frightened expressions. Panic threatened to swell within him, but he held tight to their bond, wanting to push past the pain, to reconnect. "Find the echo." The matriarch's voice rang in his mind like a lighthouse guiding him through turbulent waters. Memories clung to him like a shroud, but he had to be brave. With each heartbeat, the darkness seemed to draw back, responding to the rhythm of his defiance. Could love truly break these chains? Then, he spotted it, a flicker of light, a glimmering essence amid the swirling shadows. It drew him in, a beacon pulsating with warmth and resonance, urging him to dive deeper. The moment he locked onto it, the twins' voices blended into one powerful harmony in his heart. "Charlie!" they cried, and he could almost feel their hands brushing his, longing, hope, and fear intertwining in the air around them. Charlie shoved through the chaotic mass, feeling an exhilarating warmth grow with each step. "I'm here, girls. I believe in us." He poured everything into his voice, summoning the love that anchored them all. The darkness hissed in protest, enveloping him again, but he pushed against it. "You will not take them." The light within him surged, illuminating the fear that loomed ever closer. Shadows began to retreat, recoiling from the brilliant glow. They shrieked a mad lament, and Charlie felt their anger whip past him like a cold wind. But he grasped the twins' hands tighter, feeling their life pulse beneath his touch. "Hold on." As the warmth of their connection enveloped him, the echo pulsed rhythmically, igniting the memories buried in shadows, laughter by the tree, whispered secrets shared under starlit skies, and all the innocent days when they were just kids at play. The darkness writhed wildly, shrieking protest, but Charlie's resolve only grew stronger. "Listen," he shouted, pulling the twins closer, "remember the stories? We always held together, were bound by love. That's our truth." The light roared to life, cascading outward, slicing through the void, igniting everything around them with radiant warmth. Suddenly, the weight of 1,000 secrets seemed to collapse in on itself, a thunderous echo of long-lost whispers fading into nothingness. Charlie felt the strength of their connection surge through him as he raised their clasped hands. The darkness shrieked again, furious, but it faltered, losing its grip, beginning to dissolve. "Charlie!" A voice broke through the fabric of shadows. The twin figures began to blur, but he pulled them toward him, their faces softening in the light. "Help us." "I'm right here," he empathized, bridging the void between them. With a fierce tug, he pulled them close. He felt their warmth flooding through him, solidifying their bond, a tether that could not be severed, even by darkness, and then, just as Charlie thought hope would slip away again, the shadows collapsed around them. Light overtook the abyss, banishing every ounce of fear lingering in the depths. The darkness hissed, screeching its final protest as it unraveled before the warmth of their united light, revealing the universe of golden memories swirling around them like a curtain being drawn back. Charlie stood tall, awe flooding his heart. The twins were beside him, faces shimmering, filled with light and vitality. "You did it!" they gasped, relief rushing through their eyes. Together, they all whispered, the words resonating deep within, mingling with the memories that ignited the air. He turned to the shadows one last time, confronting the essence that haunted them. "You will never win." With that, Charlie felt the energy coalesce within him, exploding into a brilliant wave that swept through the remnants of darkness like a purging fire. The last traces flickered and faded, swallowed whole by the brightness they had forged together. As the shadows thinned, the twins twinkled beside him, shadows of their former selves suddenly illuminating the space with laughter and joy. The weight left his chest, they were free. A calm once again blanketed the forest, as Charlie, Lily, and Rose stood hand in hand in the soft glow of twilight. They turned away from the ruins of the darkness, tethered to one another by bonds far deeper than fear, embracing the purity and warmth of love as they stepped forward. "Let us go home," he said, the weight of their adventure settling like a memory among the trees, each step filled with laughter and hope for all that could come next. That night, as Hollow Hill slept under a blanket of stars, whispers transformed into promises. They had beaten the darkness together, and at last, the whispers sang songs of liberation instead of fear, but one truth remained: heavy in the air. What they had conquered wasn't merely shadows, but a testament to the power of love that walked hand in hand with darkness. As they exited, the lingering presence of the matriarch filled Charlie's thoughts. Remember, true strength lies in love, and some bonds can never be broken. In Hollow Hill, the darkness no longer thrummed. Instead, echoes of the twins' laughter filled the air, breathing hope back into lives once shadowed, a promise that they would always stand united. Now, dear readers, if you felt that incredible rush and journey alongside Charlie, Lily, and Rose, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now, it's vital for feeding the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about tonight's ending. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion to understand the power of love and friendship. Don't wait even one more second to share. Thank you for being a part of our community.